I've been using this iPhone 15 Pro for quite some time and it didn't go as planned. Some features that I didn't really care about became really useful, but certain big features that I was really excited about turned out to be almost useless. And now I think that I might have to sell the phone. I'm not gonna complain here, but try to warn you and give a realistic perspective on this phone. I bought it with my own money, so this is gonna be the most honest and unbiased review of the iPhone 15 Pro. I bought the base 128GB iPhone 15 Pro in natural titanium, and let me tell you why I bought this phone and not the Pro Max. Well, it's too big and too expensive. The 6.1-inch display of the 15 Pro and slimmer bezels fit in my hand much better. I would have been happy if the screen could be even smaller, about 5.8 inches. That's kinda a perfect size for me. And 128 gigs? I simply don't need 256. I have at least 50 gigs of free space on the phone at all times, so there's little to no reason to pay extra for something I'm not gonna use. But what about those ProRes limitations? Well, there's a way around Apple's rules, and I'm gonna show it later in the video. And while you're still here, thanks to all 700 of you who subscribed and 99% who haven't yet for your support. Before this phone, I used the iPhone 13 on a daily basis, and these new, rounded edges to me were extremely important. Holding the phone is super comfortable at all times, and I love how titanium feels to the touch. But you may not like it, since some people whom I gave the phone to try said that titanium feels like you have dusty and dirty hands. I suggest you go to the store and try it yourself before buying. I also constantly feel the need to be extra careful with this phone, so for a couple of weeks I've been testing various cases and did like this one, Cloud Kush by Case Cool. It's made out of rubber that's resistant to yellowing and has a really clever construction that helps it absorb shock and keep the phone safe. This Cloud Push technology kinda feels like it has air or gas inside under pressure, and the corners are also reinforced. What I like is the MagClap stand that I can pop up and use to comfortably watch videos vertically or horizontally. And since it's MagSafe, it works with all the accessories. I like to put it horizontally and use it in standby mode. The buttons have a nice click to them and don't rattle, which is common even for expensive cases. Mine is in this titanium-like color, but there are other colors to choose from, such as black or navy blue. And this special Christmas edition launches in December, available for pre-order now. I'll leave a link in the description. Use my code for a 10% discount. What I also like very much about the iPhone 15 Pro is the display. Not the size, but the tech in it. After the iPhone 13, the ProMotion of the 15 Pro feels amazing, and I often pull out the phone just to unlock it, do a few swipes and put it back. As for the brightness, I've never had any issues with it in older iPhones, so for me those 2000 nits were somewhat irrelevant. If I lived in a more sunny area, it would have been more noticeable, but right now I don't really feel it. One of the main reasons to buy this phone for me was the camera system. I desperately needed cinematic videos in 4K and an extra zoom lens. 5x on Pro Max is cool, but I feel like 3x is far more versatile. The cameras on the 15 Pro are great. The main sensor produces some amazing photos, both during the day and at night. It shoots in 24 megapixels by default, which I really like. Everything feels sharper now, and it's especially noticeable in portraits. Faces look crisper and less flat. And I also like that I don't need to switch to portrait mode to take portraits, but I kinda do 6 times out of 10, simply because I wanna have the full control. I recommend taking portraits using a 2x lens instead of 1x or 3x. This way the proportions of the face would be the most accurate. What I don't use in the camera are these additional focal lengths. I don't really feel the need to use any of them. But if you plan on using them, you should know that they all give 24 megapixel photos, so it's not just a crop. 2x crops the sensor to 12 megapixels, but the amount of detail is really decent. And 3x? It's really good. Can be a bit noisy when the lighting is bad, but overall a very usable module. One day I decided to compare the cameras of the 15 Pro to 11 Pro, and the results were really unexpected. If you want to see a detailed comparison of these two phones and their cameras, sub to the channel and leave a comment. But the best part about the camera for me is the ability to shoot log. With log, the majority of image processing algorithms do not work, so the video looks the best way possible. Less sharpening, more details, better shadows and more color grading flexibility. But here's the twist. The 128GB iPhone can only shoot 1080p internally and then jump straight to 4K 60, but only externally. So it may seem like you need the 256GB model to shoot 4K 30 in log. But that's not true. I use the Blackmagic camera to shoot log, and to do it I set my codec to H.265. This way I get all the benefits of log, with no drawbacks of ProRes such as enormous file size. Also, Blackmagic camera allows recording both internally and externally at any resolution and frame rate. And since I have the external SSD and the iPhone has a Type-C now, I can always record onto the SSD or transfer videos from the phone to the SSD in seconds. So yeah, this saved me $100. And since I mentioned the Type-C port, it's been really useful. I used for only 3 things: transferring files onto the SSD, charging my AirPods, and connecting an external microphone. Oh, and I connected it once to my monitor. That's basically it. I am a fairly tech-savvy person, but the way I do things doesn't really require connecting adapters, monitors, Ethernet, and so on. Most likely you're not gonna do that either, but it feels good to know that you can. If you like what I'm doing, be sure to support me with your like and subscription. Also, leave your questions about the phone in the comments and I'm gonna answer all of them. The action button was a huge selling point of this phone, and to be honest, it's overhyped. I have my focus modes set up with the necessary apps, which makes the action button somewhat useless. I thought that I was gonna set it to do multiple automations with one click, but it didn't work out. For example, I wanted to open Google Docs, create a new document and start a dictation. But shortcuts only allow opening the app itself, which is easier to do from the home screen. Opening Google Calendar and showing me today's events? Technically possible, but I don't need to see my calendar that often. Or if I'm shooting a video and need to make sure that I'm recording in log and H.265, I can set up a command to set the resolution, codec, ISO and all the other things, but not the color space. Why? This is so dumb! And don't think that I'm lazy, I tried many shortcuts. I tried opening a menu with items like torch, music and so on. I tried assigning actions on 2 or 3 clicks. Most of the time it's much faster to just open the app manually than hold down the button for half a second and then choose from the menu. But I did find a couple of good uses. When I'm in my work focus, each click of the action button sends a love message to my partner, and when I'm in no focus mode, it opens the camera. Action button in my case isn't really useful, and most of those guides online tend to make things more difficult and complex than they have to be. Action button shines in simple stuff like torch, voice memos or launching a camera. What I didn't notice that much improvement in is the battery life. My iPhone 13 has 88% battery health and the 15 Pro holds charge a couple of hours longer, but my workflow is quite slow and undemanding most of the time. I don't play games or run heavy apps, so I'm really glad that the always-on display and more powerful chip don't hinder the battery life. In your case, the difference can be mere minutes or even hours. But it's definitely not gonna be worse than your current iPhone has. And the same goes for the performance. A17 Pro is crazy fast, and I didn't find anything that can make the phone lag or be slow. The iPhone 15 Pro is not perfect, but after sitting here and talking about it, I think it deserves another chance. So I'm gonna try and dig a little deeper and in a few months give you a definitive long-term review. So leave your questions in the comments and I promise to test everything. Thanks for watching, sub to the channel and see you soon!